What's going on, everybody? Joe, Power Breaks USA. Could do something a little different tonight. Gonna have a little conversation. Talk about some topics. We want to talk about art. We want to start diving more into the Magic the Gathering art community. The reason I wanted to start this page or this stream was to really connect with more of you out there to talk about, Magic's art, what it's done for you, how you feel about it, what your favorite artist rendition of a card is, all that stuff. So I just want to get back to the basics of where my idea was from the get-go. I feel like I'm breaking a lot, but I'm not really doing much outside of that. And I'd really like to just kind of focus more on my original idea. So today, I wanted to focus on a specific artist. Okay, that's kind of how this is going to go. Is that it's always going to be one artist that I want to talk about. And in the history of Magic, over 25 years here, we've seen a lot of artists come in and out of the game. And I thought it'd be fitting if we just start from the beginning. And, back when Alpha was being created, Richard Garfield and some of these other guys that he'd worked with on conceptualizing the game, they made these playtest cards, that were really just kind of stamped on a page and then run through a copy machine. And those are highly sought after cards. The art on those are, to me, priceless. If you ever go out to the Pop Museum in Seattle, they've got a couple of those on display, and they're fun to look at. They're awesome. As a collector, kudos to those of you out there who have those. I don't find myself as being that savvy of a collector to even ever to have one of those. Unless, of course, I start having money to burn and I could just be like, oh, I'm going to go buy one of those. Sure, why not? But for me, it was always about the art, because I started playing in high school, 1993, so I was 14 years old. Game came out. I started playing, I think, in probably 94 or 95. Whenever Revised came out, that was my first set that I had bought. And I used to go to a comic shop all the time, and my comic shop started stocking Magic the Gathering, and they had been, but at one point, then the guy who ran the comic shop, it was called Moondogs. It was in Schaumburg, Illinois. And I believe the guy's name was Keith, because he opened up a shop called Keith's Comics, which is still out in Schaumburg if you ever want to look him up. Great dude. He recognized me for a very, very long time, and then at some point, time just got the better of both of us. I got older, fatter, a bit grayer. Not going to say he did the same, but our memories kind of got mushy. But I always appreciated going into his shop and him knowing who I was. I always spent pretty much any money that I had gotten on things from comic books to toys to shirts. They were kind of on that cutting edge, 30 years ago for comic shops that were, trying to sell more than just comics at the time. I love the smell of that place. I love the smell of new books. It was it's like a paradise for a 14-year-old kid, And I worked at Subway in the same area, right down, a couple shops right down the area. There was a record store. So I spent my money, whatever I made at Subway, I always just went right to the record shop and went right to Moondogs. And I just loved the interaction. I didn't talk to anybody there, personally, the shoppers and consumers. It was always the guys at the shop that I really just connected with. And so Keith, I remember, I think it was Keith. I'm just going to say it was Keith. Keith introduced me to Magic. He was like, you ever play this game? I was like, I don't play games, man. I just read comic books, when's the next Superman coming out? When's the next X-Men? That's what I'm reading right now. He's like, I think you'd really get a kick out of this. And so I didn't buy anything. I remember specifically I didn't buy anything. But then I had gone to school. I was in high school. So I remember going to school, and then all of a sudden, I saw some kids that were playing this game, and it was at lunchtime. And so they're at the lunch table, we didn't really have that separation that like those cliquish type separations. People were just kind of all intermingled. So you had like all your cool kids and your jocks and your nerds and band people, and everyone was like together all the time. And so I just remember some of my friends, because I had a lot of friends over there at that table, and I walked over. I said, "What are you guys doing?" And sure as shit, they were like, "Oh, we're playing Magic." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "I just talked to Keith over at Moondogs about Magic." I'm like, should I get into that? Are you guys playing it?" And they were like, "Yeah, definitely." So I remember buying starter packs and getting addicted buying starter decks. They were the best. I'm pretty sure, I can't even remember what I had at this point, because I ended up getting rid of them. I went to college, and I just flat out stopped playing Magic then at that point. I really wanted to focus on me being independent and in the world and stuff like that. So I remember selling them for like $200. I thought that was the best deal out in the world. Looking back, it's not the best deal in the world. Had a couple dual lands in there. Never had a Black Lotus. Never had a Black Lotus out of anything. I remember specifically going to a tournament back then, and somebody had a Black Lotus that they wanted to trade, and I was shaking just being in its presence. I was like, man, this has to be the most rare item that I'll ever be able to be in front of in my life. It's not true, but as a 15-year-old kid, it was the world. Wasn't until later down the road that I actually was able to pick up a collector's edition Black Lotus, which I still have, and I graded through Beckett at an 8.5. I feel like it was more of a 9, but the centering was a little off. That's kind of what takes it down. But regardless, throughout this history of Magic, and this is kind of what the point I'm trying to get to, is that throughout my history, my relationship with Magic, is I always loved the art. My playmats, I've got Christopher Rush. Is it Christopher Rush? Oh my god, I'm like drawing a blank here. Yeah, Christopher Rush. I've got the Black Lotus here. I've got, different pieces that I love, like the books. I have some of the books here. Actually, no, I'll click on this in a little bit, but I love the books, the Magic the Gathering books, the comics. So everything kind of like just makes sense to me. Like it speaks to me. The fantasy art speaks to me. But one artist in particular really kind of caught my attention, and I'll tell you why. And who we're going to talk about today is a man by the name of let's see if I can get this right. Mark Teeden. Mark Teeden is fantastic. This guy, got to meet him once. And it's like any other Magic artist. When you meet them, is like they just want to know what you want to purchase. If they're busy, they want you to kind of do your thing. Let me know what you want. We'll commission it. I'm not that guy who's spending a lot of money on commissions. I know there's a bunch of you out there who love getting this original art, and you'll frame it and you'll present it. I love that. I think that's 100% what you should be doing. For me, I've always had this weird relationship with Magic where I'm like, I'm going to keep it at bay. Okay? It's like one of these things where like, I really love the game, but I'm going to keep it like right here. And for me, it's more like accumulating things here and there. And then one day when I don't want to play anymore, I'm just going to sell everything. Realistically, I'm probably not going to sell much, but Mark, good dude, man. Like just cordial, very nice, very approachable. If you ever see him at upcoming Magic Fest or Grand Prix or any of that stuff, go talk to the guy because he's amazing. And you have to understand when you're in his presence, that you are in the presence of royalty when it comes to Magic the Gathering. If you see behind me, I have the Soul Ring. How many of you use Soul Rings out there? Probably most of you, right? I would imagine most of you use some form of Soul Ring, whether it's something from Revised or Alpha, Beta, or Mark Teeden's, or if you use, maybe it's, who's the other guy? So this is where I'm going to be a very, very miserable streamer because I'm just gonna always forget what everybody's names are, unless of course I prepare for it. So I think it was Jason something. It is. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mike Burek. Mike Burek has the probably most famous Sol Ring, just because it's been reprinted so many times. His art, but Mark Teeden still rings true to me, man, as the king of Sol Rings. It was the fact that it was like painted, and you can kind of see behind me, like just kind of like how you could see the shape, but you're not like 100% like you don't know if that shape's ever gonna stop. Like it's got fluidity, I guess is the best way to put it. So I want to first and foremost tell you, when it comes to my love for these artists and for the art, I am not an art major. I took a little bit of art history in college. It was always something that just stood out the most. It wasn't just the flavor of the game, but it was always like the cards. It was always what the cards looked like. And I felt like that was, where it was at for me. Like I loved looking at the art. Now, if we want to go into some, maybe some kind of rebellious conversation here, maybe something on kind of borderline, like maybe I shouldn't be talking about it, but when you're younger, people did drugs. Let's put it that way. People dropped acid, people did mushrooms, smoked the ganj, which, of course isn't that big of a deal anymore. And even like the mushrooms, if you microdose them properly, through medical professionals, of course, I'm going to tell you that. I'm not promoting drugs. What I'm saying is like we're reckless youth, man. I mean, that's the thing. So I never took drugs because I was like, I can't. I play this game Magic the Gathering, and if I see anything from that game come alive, my heart is gonna explode. So I was always like the den mother when it came down to the my friends who maybe partook in some usage. No one ever really went overboard, which is great. No one ever really went crazy, and I can tell you right now, hard drugs really weren't a thing in my circle of friends. It was kind of more like an experimental thing, which made me feel more comfortable being around it. But regardless, I don't want to talk about drug use. What I want to say is that if you do drugs, don't be looking at Magic cards because they're going to freak you out. So for me, Mark Teeden he just emphasized things in my imagination that just, even without making my imagination come to life, this guy, he embodied what was going on in my head. And I want to kind of throw some pics up in the background as we talk about this, because in that way you can kind of see his art. And there's the Thrall from Fallen Empires. There's a Kraken from Ice Age right there. This one right here. So, Urza. I mean, he's got one of the most iconic Urzas, I feel. And that's the Vanguard Urza. If you're familiar with Vanguard, it really was just an intro to characters. It wasn't really a game playable card. It was just kind of here's Urza, here's his story, he's awesome. So, but Mark's awesome, and from what I gathered online to look for his information, everything's pretty cut and dry with him. So I'll tell you a little about him. Mark ended up, he was born in Alaska, and I think it was Sitka. Sitka. Yeah, Sitka. Sorry, I had to look it up on my computer. But so he ended up going to school in, if we want to make it kind of a current topic, he went to school in Spokane, Washington at Gonzaga. And so obviously Gonzaga being in the final championship NCAA game, he went to a great school. I don't know what Gonzaga was back then, but Gonzaga's been a pretty good school for a long time. And so, and that's Washington, and so that's Seattle, and he just, he's in the heat of it right there. He's in the thick of a lot of creative processes going on at that time. Ended up graduating Oh, before that though, like he ended up getting really into science while he was at Gonzaga, and essentially what that did for his drawing was just like really kind of got him more interested, I think, in details with science and stuff. And I had read too that he, when he was a kid, he wanted to be an astronaut. The reason he started drawing was because he would start drawing pictures of like aliens and astronauts and spaceships and creatures. And it just kind of like fueled his imagination going from there, going from one thing to another there. So pretty cool story, I feel, for him. He ended up becoming one of the I'm sorry, hang on, stop, gotta rewind. So he ended up going to St. Louis after that for his master's degree at Washington University. And he was really good buddies with original artist Anson Maddox too. And so after he had graduated Washington University, he ended up going back to Seattle with Anson, and they both got jobs at Wizards of the Coast. And so at that time, we're talking about those playtest cards and stuff like that for Magic the Gathering. Richard Garfield was just kind of starting this game, but he was looking for, and this is just kind of legend and lore, is that he was looking for artists that were reliable first and foremost, but that were also very quick with their art, and that it was good art. And so Mark Teaden, just back then, there's Lore of the Pit. Like there's the one that fuels my nightmares when I was a kid, dude. Lore of the Pit. There's Mana Vault. I keep pointing in the wrong direction. There's Mana Vault too. Memory Lapse. Like he had this way with like space and how to create what was going on in that space. And so, Lore of the Pit was, if I'm going to talk personally, Lore of the Pit and Leviathan were like two of my jams when it came down to it. They were just so detailed and intense, and if you just stop and stare at the art, kind of like you would if you were like all these conspiracy theorists like checking out like a $20 bill and be like, oh man, there's a guy in like the window and all this stuff. Like I feel like that's how I was with Magic the Gathering cards. I wasn't trying to depict anything or find anything specific, but I would just find some new detail every time I looked through this art. So here I'm going to switch the scene a little bit. I'm going to show you some Mark Teaden cards. So I was telling you about Lore of the Pit. Lord of the Pit is an incredibly being like a 15-year-old kid, and like I had no idea what the symbol was. I was like, oh my god, should I not be playing with this card because it's got some kind of weird symbol on there? And then looking at him, look at his rib cage and stuff, and his face is kind of ridiculous a bit, kind of look like hi guy, I'm gonna come get you, hi guy. But it was more so of the other details, where's his hands? He doesn't have hands. He's got wings, dude. And that's what he's got. And he's got these spiky things at the top. So my guess is that's how he gets you. All right, that he's gonna wrap you up into his chest cave there. So, and then on top of that, the card was just wicked, dude. He's a 7/7 for 7 mana. I mean, I can't remember late games back then, but late game, you could beat down somebody, but you had to sacrifice a creature too to keep him alive. And that's where later on, thralls and stuff like that, when you can make thrall tokens or saprolanes, that's where Lore of the Pit to me could have shined better. But I don't remember them being in standard at the same time, because that it's so long ago. We only had limited resources to play. I don't think there was a really limit on what sets you can and cannot use. But anyways, Lore of the Pit, amazing. Love Lore of the Pit. Let's go to this one. Let's go to Leviathan. So this was the one that, just when I talk about space and how he works with space, the size of this tower, and then the size of this Leviathan, and just how intense can you be, dude? That is it's freaking me out. It's got a big old eye. I mean, see his eye right there? You can see it. He's looking right at you. But just the monstrosity of this thing, and we don't even see. I mean, here's the tail there, but we don't even see like what's even over here. Like, is there something else going on with his tail? Is there more curls happening? This is a big creature, and he's a 10/10, which at that time I think was probably the biggest creature out there. So this was man, just a freaky card to look at back in the day. But Mark did such good art. And then obviously through history, he started doing some other stuff. You know, has the Merfolk people here on the on Ponder. And not only that, let's see if we can get a. I think we got to do this. Yeah. And not only that, like, you know, he's getting a little graphic. Maybe she's got some pokies going on there in the water, like it's a little cold water. Yeah, great art, great Ponder. You know, I think Dan Scott's art's a little better. But Mark Teaton, I'll take it. You know, this is a great card. And then these are just some of my favorite arts by him, by the way, and also things that I had within arm's reach that I can share with you. And then there's, you know, Doubling Cube, which is a totally, in my opinion, one of the more powerful cards that I've ever used because I love green. And so anytime I build an EDH deck, Doubling Cube goes somewhat close into that deck. In fact, it's in a, what deck is this in right now? I can't remember. No, I actually just took it out of a deck because I'm destroying some EDH decks and rebuilding them. But Doubling Cube, double the amount of each type of mana in your mana pool. I mean, that's a Vorinclex and Omnath, like original green Omnath, Locus of Mana, like, you know, feeder right here. This is an enabler, dude. You gotta have this deck. You gotta have this in your deck and just like keep cranking out mana. So, but I do want to share, and this is, you know, we're not going to talk forever about Mark, but I wanted to share at least with Mark, or about Mark, my interaction with him. I'll go back to this scene real quick. So, I went to a Grand Prix, I think it was a Grand Prix, in Oklahoma City, and I'm in Kansas City, so it was about, oh man, probably like a 4 hour ride maybe there. We had my play group and we went out there, and that was my first experience in modern Magic. Like after, like I had said, I picked up the game again, just to see my first tournament since, I mean, I would just go to local tournaments when I was a kid, and everything was just kind of like, you know, pretty much, I don't know, like 20, 25 people, 30 people, you know, kind of like what, like, just a normal Friday Night Magic would be today. But I just remember, no, I guess I went to one that was actually probably a couple hundred people. It was at a hotel. I can't remember. But anyways, it's irrelevant. So I went to this Grand Prix and saw Dan Scott's there. And I love Dan Scott. I always thought, and we'll do a Dan Scott episode here at some point too. And my wish is that I can get these artists actually to phone in or maybe pre-record like an interview and we could play it for you guys. But so Dan lives in Kansas City. He's not that far, and Mark's out in Seattle. So it was really more important for me to like connect with Mark when I was there. I was like, I really need to go see Mark Teaton. I ended up chatting a long time with Dan that day, and Mark was gone for a long time, whether it was lunch or dinner. I can't remember what time it was, but we had gotten there like super late. I mean, we had to coordinate 4 of us. And then not only coordinate four of us, but also get there. You know, just take that long trip. So I had a revised Soul Ring, and I was like, I need to go talk to Mark before he leaves. I'm like, I need him to sign this card. You know, I've got a bunch of Dan Scott autographs. You know, a bunch of signatures from, you know, I think I didn't have a Ponder, but I've got all these other ones. Near Death Experience. Yeah, I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But Mark came back, and no one was around him. So I walked right up to him because I was right at Dan's table. I walked right up to him. I said, "Listen, you have an immense history with this game, so thank you." You know, I thanked him obviously. I said, "Thank you for your contributions and for your art. Like, it's just awesome." Nicest guy in the world. I don't know if you ever talk to, like, you know, artists like at Comic-Cons or anything like that, but some guys can just be really standoffish, not approachable. Dude, Mark is totally approachable, especially for as long as he's been in this game. I compare it to, like, I don't know if you guys ever met Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, but that's another dude who, like, you know, you expect him to be like totally like, hey kid, buzz off. Let me do your signature and leave me alone. Neil Adams, another guy, just great. They'll talk to you. You know, they'll engage in a conversation, as long as that conversation is not too weird. But I appreciate Mark for doing all that. So I gave my card, and he's like, "What do you want?" I said, "I kind of want an altar." I said, "Could you alter it a little bit?" And he's like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I don't know." I had such a blank. This is the first time that I'd ever met, really, outside of Dan Scott, like an artist from Magic the Gathering. And not only that, like this historical figure in Magic the Gathering, like to me. So I was like, I have no idea. Like my brain was like going crazy. I should have had him do like something maybe Star Wars oriented, or maybe make Chaos Orb, like, you know, within it, or, you know, I've seen him do something with, like, you know, Soul Ring becomes Kenny from South Park. You know, I saw like all these different like cool like altars out there. But I was like, could you just do something like original you haven't done before? I'm like, I hate to say it, but I just don't know what to say. I didn't know what to tell you. So he ended up making me this. And it's called Alien Tug of War. Which I totally thought was hilarious. I was like, Alien Tug of War, yeah. So all it is these alien hands that are picking apart this Soul Ring, and Mark's awesome signature right there on my revised Soul Ring. I'll always love that interaction. I'll cherish that. Dude's awesome. He's fantastic. I don't ever want to give. This is never up for trade. This is never up for you know, ante. back in the day, I used to bid cards as we played Magic. But anyways, like Alien Tug of War, I thought it was a really, really cool card. So thank you, Mark, for doing that. And thank you, Mark Teeden, for always doing some badass art for Magic the Gathering. So with that being said, you know, I wanted to only spend about 30 minutes on talking about an artist. There's a lot more artists to choose from, obviously, in the history of Magic. My goal right now is to work on getting as many of the original artists who are still alive currently and who are also still taking, you know, requests from fans. So my goal is, after doing Mark here, after talking about Mark, I want to stick with just, you know, Volume 1 is going to be all the original artists. And even if they're alive, I'd love to get them obviously interviewed. But if they're not alive, I'll still talk about them. I mean, you know, I think Mark Pohl, perfect example. You know, I don't think he's around anymore. But I want to be able to talk about my love and my appreciation for all the artwork that has been in the past 27 years, 28 years of Magic the Gathering. So thanks, Mark. This stream was for you tonight. But yeah, so now I think I'm actually going to break some cards. So that's the next thing. But appreciated all the time you guys can listen with me here. Let's see, there it is. Move that back. Okay. So right now, I would first and foremost like to take this opportunity to sip my whiskey. Tonight it's rye, but then again, if you've watched me before, this is what I drink. I drink rye. I love me some rye. On to the break. So I'm not going to break a case or a box or anything huge, but I'm back to breaking some Jumpstart. Been finding some of these lingering around targets out in the area, so when I see them, I pick them up. There's still really, really good cards in this set. And there's still a lot of misprints that are popping out there too, from what I've seen. So I'm always still chasing the misprints. If we misprint them, or if you misprint them, then I'm buying them. All right, let me pull these down. So let's hope for some hits tonight. So we've got 4, They all look fine. Nothing looks goofy. There's not like some weird ink or anything. No, they're all good. All right. So let's see. We're gonna try something different. We're gonna go odds and evens first. So we're gonna pick from those. So we'll do odds and we'll do evens. 5, odd. Okay, so we'll put these two to the side. We'll go odds and evens again. Odd, even. And there's the even. 4. Okay. So let's bust out. Let's see what we got. Everything looks fine right there. And we've got above the clouds. All right, so above the clouds. And the thing is about breaking Jumpstart is that you really, I mean, you really kind of know what you can get. So we've got Inez, the Gale Force. That's our only rare. But we want to check the cards, make sure there's no crimps or ink mistakes. There was a lot of ink mistakes in this set. Beautiful islands. I'll always talk about the Jumpstart Island or Jumpstart lands because Jumpstart lands are awesome. Okay. 3 more. Let's go 2, 4, 6. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2. Looks good and spooky. Let's see what we get in spooky. Got a Harvester of Souls. Just checking for some misprints, making sure they're okay. Driving More is awesome. I like that creepy little graveyard swamp. Okay. Next, odds evens. It's an even. Even Steven. So far, this hasn't been worth $20 to pick up. Spellcasting. This is a fun set, though. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. It was a fun set. Double Vision. It's a great card. Hey, look. They're twinsies. Nice spellcasting mountain. Alright, last one. It better be something big. Witchcraft. I don't think I've gotten Witchcraft yet. And I've opened a lot of these. Who is in Witchcraft? Bog Brew Witch with a completely shifted foil stamp. And we've got Witch of the Moors. Huh. Baked into pie. Tempting Witch. That's a great little card. And a Paquette. Adam Paquette or Paquette, however you say his last name, is pretty awesome, that guy. Does great lands. Alright, so that was the small break tonight. Not much is happening. I really hope you guys enjoyed sort of me talking about the artist and the artist series here. But but we're gonna keep this rolling there for a little bit. So I think next time we'll talk about Anson Maddox. We talk about Anson Maddox, and it's kind of a connection between him and Mark Teaton. So, and at some point, I'd really like to get some of these artists on the phone. That would be a fun thing to watch, and then break cards. And speaking of breaking cards, if you check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/PowerBreaksUSA, you will, or at PowerBreaksUSA if you're just looking for us. If you're interested in doing breaks, I still have Modern Masters 2013 up there. It needs to get filled, and it's $80 US dollars to partake, and it's going to be a color break. So which means you're going to pick a color, or the color you'd like to get, and then we will randomize you, the 8 of you, and assign your preference in color then after that. So with that being said, check us out, Power Breaks USA on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out here, obviously, on Twitch. Make sure you're liking us. And hopefully we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again, and we'll see ya.